2, 1, 2. All right, ready?
Yes.
So let's begin with just a brief overview. What is the latest update on Florence?
Yeah, the latest update is, just still slowly moving to the west at only 5 miles an hour. And that's part of the problem we've been advertising. This is the center. And you're starting to get these tropical storm force winds, places like Lumberton and Florence, just starting to get some of those tropical storm force winds moving inland. So you're seeing, slowly but surely this thing moving west. And the other part that I've been really worried about, of course, is the outer bands. The last 5 or 6 hours, you look at this radar, the storms look like they're moving so fast. That's just because you got a hurricane and they move fast. But if you notice, they stay within the bars there. So as a result, what happens is you get the intense rainfall and also the tornadoes. That's where we've seen our tornado warnings. And some of the rain in here looks like 15 to 20 inches already.
And when are we going to start seeing the outer bands in more inland North Carolina, places like Asheville?
Yeah, slowly but surely moving into Asheville. I do want to go to the forecast because we do start off so slowly, and that's been one of the big stories of this system. So let's review the timeline. So staying a hurricane this afternoon and portions of tonight. By tomorrow morning, we do expect a tropical storm, but still the impacts, of course, with the rain. And then by Sunday, look at that, we're still in South Carolina. So for places like Asheville, we're really looking at impacts throughout the weekend and a while. So that really causes an issue, not just with the storm surge on the coast. We keep reminding people, so important, look at these values inland. For folks like Asheville, Charlotte, look at this, 10 to 15. Asheville, you're right on the border between 4 and 6, and that's why we always say be careful of really being at the border of this rainfall, because 6 to 10 is really close. Just because the forecast changes, it can in the outer periods. As a result, you can see some of these values change. So if you're in Asheville, you need to be watching this real close.
We were talking about previously, why is the storm moving so slowly?
Yeah, it's interesting that, these systems are so powerful. You see these hurricanes, they're still dependent on the steering currents and the rest of the atmosphere. So what happens is, early on, we had a big high pressure system out in the Atlantic, and that kept the system moving at 15 to 17 miles an hour. Once we neared the coast, we lost that influence, and as a result, no steering currents. So you have to wait for something to steer these systems, and we're not going to have that until late in the weekend when a trough of low pressure up in the Great Lakes area finally slides over. So it'll feel that trough on Sunday. When it turns, you start seeing that little turn, it starts to feel that trough, and eventually the trough gets closer and speeds up the system really quick. But even though it speeds out, I mean, even if you get the system out of here, in the wake will be incredible rainfall, river flooding that could last a week.
And we were talking about what happens at night, that the storm actually shrinks. Can you explain, why that happens and what that actually means for people on the ground?
Yeah, it's an important fact because, just looking at the last 24, 25 years of this, you see that. These hurricanes are so powerful, they kind of breeze. So at night, it loses the sun. And a lot of times you'll see the wind field shrink and the core rains become very intense. And unfortunately, that's at night. And what happens is you can get some of the flash flooding at nighttime when people are asleep and dark and can't see. That's why we're talking, have to have a weather radio, have to have a way to get the warnings because your electricity could be out. During the day, you get the sunlight. And it's interesting that the daytime heating actually expands these, where you see the rain start expanding with time during the day. Very typical of these hurricanes. So those characteristics have a difference on the ground because those core rains, intense rainfall at night, which is particularly dangerous.
And right now, what is the worst storm surge that we're currently seeing?
Yeah, it looked like when we had the storm come in, we really look at some of that storm surge that took place, especially inland where the water piles up, got to about 11 feet. So what we're doing right now is that is slowly starting to drain out. The problem is now we have fresh water coming down. So we are slowly transitioning as we speak this afternoon from a saltwater event to a freshwater event, and that's what we've been advertised. Either way, that water creates about 90% of the fatalities in these tropical systems.